Hey guys, how you doing today? Chilly, windy day today, so I'm just gonna do this one on the front porch. Today's video is gonna be uh, spicy subject matter. Let's say I am on shaky ground, and I'll admit that right away. And I feel very vulnerable talking about this subject, uh, which is going to be about sex and sexuality under capitalism, right? That what has it done to our society? What has it done to the way we perceive our sexuality? What does it mean in terms of pornography? What inspired this desire? There's two things that really inspired me to talk about this. One, I started having a back and forth conversation with one of my Patreons because they noticed that I have subscribed Belle Delphine. You can go see it, right? I subscribe Belle Delphine. I'm not going to apologize for it. I think that she is actually a brilliant artist. If you listen to her speak, she's very intelligent. She's very quick. I feel that she is making the decisions that she needs to make for her life, given the complete disaster and abandonment that capitalism has put on her table as well as the rest of ours. I'm not 100%. Anyway, I think, and we're going to go into why I think that it's completely fine for people to engage in pornography, why I think it's weird that our society denigrates something like pornography. And I understand that I'm on shaky ground because I am a straight white male, and male sexuality has been very, very suppressed in our society and very, very denigrated. And even talking about it, I feel as though I'm walking into shaky territory. I know for a fact I am going to get bombarded by someone who refuses to acknowledge that the fact that I have a sexual aspect to myself is natural or healthy or exists in the world. And the second reason I want to talk about this is I need to talk about something other than the complete disaster show that is Doug Ford and the abandonment and now the blame that he's putting forward. For God's sakes, now we even have documents coming out showing that they knew that there were going to be blow-ups and that they decided to allow those blow-ups to happen, right? Like we are talking about a group of rapacious sociopaths who are actively abandoning and then gaslighting us. And it's obvious and it's overt, and honestly, it's a bit much to take. It's a bit much to take. And so when the opportunity comes up to discuss any other subject, and of course the one I've chosen is probably going to be one of the more controversial ones for people who are listening. So here we go. I lean into controversy and I don't care. Our society denigrates sexuality. We are all sexual beings. Like, there is this unspoken aspect to our society where, like, you can't talk about sex. You just can't. That the people who are existing as sexual beings and who are being the sexual creatures who they actually are, right? That it's built into our genetic code that we desire sex, that we want to see sex, that sex is a part of the human experience. And yet we live in a society where these things are absolutely shoved to the side. Like, if you work in a corporate capitalist institution and you start a relationship with someone, you will be fired, right? Or at the very least, it will cause problems for you. The capitalist structure has done everything it can to expunge from the places where you spend most of your time, right? The places where you spend most of your time, and you are not allowed to exist as the base level sexual creature that you are, right? That we all have these urges, we all have these desires. For goodness sakes, like, the whole incel movement is completely predicated on the truth that there are people in the world who cannot experience who feel that their sexual side has been so repressed, and who feel that they can't express themselves sexually successfully in the world, that they literally, like, drive vans into people, right? Sex matters it matters in a desperate and real way, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's allowed to talk about it, right? And there's this very odd movement that has occurred where we are supposed to learn to respect and keep sex workers safe, which we should, absolutely. I'm never ever going to say anything other than that. But the people who actually enjoy that sex work are dirty, degenerate, filthy perverts, right? Like, this is what is put at the feet of people who dare to actually enjoy themselves in the world, right? Like we have a button inside of our bodies that releases pleasure when we experience it. And if we partake in the button, we're supposed to feel guilty about it, and we're supposed to feel bad about it. And it is fundamentally because, like, the capitalist system cannot have you recognizing and realizing that there are objectives and goals that supersede its agenda. That really is what it comes down to. And that might sound a bit conspiratorial, and that might sound a bit QAnon-y, but, like, it is the truth. Like, capitalists want your primary objective to be making money for them. That's what they want. And if they see or recognize that, oh no, there are objectives that supersede that, like, men, you have to confirm this. Like, this is there's this weird unspoken truth that seems to not exist in that women don't seem to accept or understand or believe, right? That for men, sex is a primary motivator. It is a primary motivator. It's like number one for sure. Like, we want it. People, kings have given up empires for it, right? Like, the idea that men are living in corporate capitalism as neutral figures who have been distilled of their sexuality is a childish farce, right? Like, we remain silent because we don't want to be punished, and we don't want to lose our jobs, and we don't want to do any of this kind of stuff. But, like, when a woman shows up to work wearing skin-tight clothing that shows off her form, we notice, and we like it. And it creates inside of us a desire and an urge for catharsis, for release, right? This is an Aristotelian idea that ties directly. My background is theater, right? Aristotle pursued the idea. Why do people actually partake in art? What is art? Why is there theater? What is this? And his theory was that there must be a cathartic release, that there has to be this catharsis that exists inside of people, that they partake in this public, large-scale cultural event, and that creates a catharsis. It allows a release of energy, right? And my whole life, like, I've been told, like, we've all heard this, like, rock and roll is a tool of the devil, video games make people violent, and it's like, no, people are violent, right? Video games aren't making anybody violent, right? If anything, video games are acting as a way for people to find neutral catharsis for their violence, right? That when you play a game like Doom and you go around and shoot a bunch of demons, right, it releases inside of the player some kind of catharsis. There is a cathartic moment that occurs. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it, right? That if there wasn't some kind of benefit or some kind of release or some kind of improvement to the life of the user, they wouldn't do it, right? And I feel like a similar sort of conversation is happening in regards to pornography, right? We're told that pornography objectifies women, and full scale stop, it's actually far more worse than that. Men objectify women, right? You don't need to delve into what porn is doing to men to realize that men have always objectified women. Women used to be property, for God's sakes, right? Like, in our society, like, that's a truth that we don't really want to, that certainly large-scale conservatives don't want to admit, that very recently women were considered property. So yeah, men objectify women. Like, that's the truth. Pornography does not objectify anybody, right? To me, that's an awful lot like saying, oh, I'm against the Olympics because the Olympics objectifies athletes, right? Like, no, no. There are people who want to engage in sport. There are people who want to engage in sex, and they want to do it publicly. They want to be seen. They want to enjoy sex. They want to participate in it. They want to do these things. Obviously, they want to, right? Or they wouldn't do it. Now, to me, where it gets... and there's also the complaint that pornography creates an unrealistic expectation for men or women. And this is the same thing as, like, fashion models create unrealistic beauty standards. And again, I say, like, the Olympics creates an unrealistic expectation for athletes. Like, I can't participate in my sport that I enjoy because the Olympics are exist, right? Like, to me, like, I know that's kind of a silly way of taking it, but that is how I feel. That is how I feel about it. That the and the muddiness and the dirtiness of pornography, in my view, has less to do with pornography. Because when you think about it, like, what is that? That is a man or a woman having their picture taken or having done on video, right? A sexual activity that is then shared within the populace, and the populace looks at it and enjoys it and experiences a release and catharsis for having done so, right? That sounds fine, doesn't it? That sounds fine. Where pornography becomes dingy or dirty, right, is when it interacts with the capitalist system. So let's take a look at someone like Belle Delphine, right? Belle Delphine starts her YouTube career as a makeup artist. That's what she wanted to do. She did makeup. And of course, the thing with Belle Delphine is that she is an exceptionally beautiful woman, right? She is. Whether you, like, sorry if I'm breaking any hearts out there by saying that, or losing any opinions from anybody, right? Like, there are beautiful women in the world, and Belle Delphine is one of them, right? And all things being equal, right, she would probably pursue her artistic endeavor, right, the way that she wanted to. But the issue is that capitalism doesn't provide food and shelter for people, right? So you have to pursue, you have to follow the money. You have to follow the money. And if you are a beautiful young lady who obviously wants to be seen, she's starting like a YouTube channel, right, doing this kind of stuff, well, then the path towards the path from selling your skill set as, like, an artist, as a makeup artist, to selling your body as something to be observed and enjoyed sexually is very clean, right? It's a very clean path. And this isn't to say that, like, I genuinely believe that if the capitalist system didn't exist, that if food and shelter was provided for people freely, right, that I genuinely believe that there would be plenty of people doing porn, right? Lots of people would do it, right? It's supernatural. Like, I don't mean supernatural. I mean, it is incredibly natural. It is something that is inside of us. It is something that we want. People want to be seen, right? People want to have their photos taken. People want to be on video. People want to be seen as, and people want to have sex, right? It's very difficult for me to believe that these some of these who are called porn stars or porn actresses or porn actors, right, have made any errors in their life, right? That they're making bad decisions. You take a look at somebody like Johnny Sins, right? Like, let's name names. Like, you take a look at somebody like Johnny Sins or Adrian Cheshik, right? They are having a lot of sex and they look like they're having a great time, right? And I genuinely believe that they would exist even without the capitalist system. And just because it makes us feel weird, that doesn't say anything about them. That doesn't even say anything about pornography. That has everything to do with you, right? That has everything to do with you and your discomfort with your own sexuality, which you're not permitted to explore and you're not permitted to dig into in any meaningful way, because instead of having institutions that actually support the idea that you're a sexual creature who wants sex, instead of that, right, we have these dumb businesses that that don't even let you talk about it, don't even let you mention it, don't even acknowledge its existence outside of saying you better bottle that up and keep it to yourself, right? And like our sex ed through our school system is a disaster. It's a complete and total disaster. I was taught abstinence, right? I don't know about the rest of you, but I was taught straight abstinence, right? Which is complete failure. It's a total fraud. It like just straight up don't do it. Are you kidding me? It's like saying don't pee, right? Good luck. Good luck. Like, I genuinely spent, like, I was raised evangelical Christian, right? I spent a good portion of my teen years and my early 20s believing that engaging in any kind of sexual activity outside of a very tight, confined, monogamous marriage structure got you sent to hell, right? Like, that's a genuine belief that people have, right? That's a disaster. It's a sexual disaster. It's a disaster of self-identity. It's a disaster for our culture and who we are. And the issue isn't that we want to have sex and that we want to look at the world and we want to partake as sexual creatures in that world. The problem is that we don't get food and shelter, and so we have to sell it, right? Right? Like, that's the problem. The problem is that we have to sell it. And you do end up with people in the world who don't want to sell it, but they don't have any alternative. They don't have an alternative, right? That their alternative is to just be homeless on the street, right? And so, to me, when we are encountering an issue like pornography, right, I feel very much like, why am I supposed to feel bad that I'm subscribed to Belle Delphine, right? Belle Delphine is a young, blossoming, brilliant artist, if you ask me. She does very controversial things. She does things that draw a lot of attention to her, right? Very successfully. And I don't genuinely see, like, what is the difference between someone like, oh, why am I blanking on that name? Like somebody like Cardi B, or somebody like, oh, come on. Just any of these artists who are using overt sexuality, right? Like Katy Perry, right? Like, what is the difference truly between someone like them and somebody like Belle Delphine, outside of the fact that Belle Delphine has taken the next natural step, right? And it is a natural step, right? That when you see somebody when you see these like sexualized artists who are gallivanting in front of you, right? The next logical step is pornography. That's what it is. Because we obviously all like it. We obviously all do it, right? We're obviously all partaking on one level or another, right? Whether it's through literature, like men seem to like visually, right? That it's like film and television, right? Like that's what we're into. And women seem to read books, right? And like, what's 50 Shades of Grey? 50 Shades of Grey is pornography. Like, for sure it is. And we're all just supposed to ignore that. We're all just supposed to pretend, oh, it's erotica. Oh, yeah, okay. Like, I don't really see the distinction. I don't understand the difference there. And yet we're just supposed to all let that pass. Like, you can take 50 Shades of Grey and put it on a coffee table, right? And it could just sit there. And everybody's just supposed to walk around and ignore it. But if you take a picture of a lady who's not wearing their top, oh, then suddenly you're a degenerate, disgusting pig, right? Excuse me? I'm like, the Free the Nipple movement itself is a real reflection of this, and is an oddity in our society, right? And of course, part of the issue that we are facing as a people at this moment is that because we're so sequestered, and because we're so disconnected from our own sexuality and from pornography, and from our cultural sexuality, right? That when we do get to involve ourselves in it, or when we do see it, or when we do interact with it, it blows up. We just blow up because we have no method to actually deal with this. And we have no method to actually understand what's even happening to us until it's literally in our lap, until it's literally right in front of us. And it just blows up, right? And so if we were to see a woman walking around in public topless, men would go, oh, oh, because it's so unexpected, it's so outside of what our normal experience is, and yet it's literally built into our natural existence. And this is how far we are as a people from our own natural selves. That the capitalist system that we exist in, has done everything it can to clamp down on this sexual desire and this sexual experience, and it's willing to sell it to us, right? And that could be a big reason why it is clamping down, right? Is so that it can sell it, because capitalism is about taking the natural resources that exist in the natural world, right? Withholding them from you, food, shelter, right? Same thing with sexuality, right? And repackaging them and reselling them to you, right? So that it can get its cut on something that is innate and lives within you, right? That you are supposed to deny and think is dirty and degenerate and make you a filthy pervert if you enjoy. I think that's nuts, right? I think that's nuts. And if we dare, like, it, and this takes us down very interesting and very odd rabbit holes, right? Like for goodness sakes, we are apes. Like, we are apes, right? We've seen footage of an ape, like, jerking off in the middle of the ape tribe for all to see, right? We've seen that footage, right? It exists. We know it does, right? And that urge exists inside of mankind. Like, take a look at somebody like Louis C.K., right? What's the scandal around him? That he asked some people if he could enjoy himself that way in front of them, and they consented, right? And this is the thing that ruined his career. Like, that's how far away we are from our sexuality, and that's how terrifying our sexuality has become, right? And maybe that's a controversial thing to say. I don't think so, right? And I will say, of course, when we get into issues of consent, we get into issues of like, of course, all things should be done with the consent of the people involved, insofar as they can be granted in a capitalist system that doesn't ask your consent for anything, right? That you are plunged into a slave-based system without your consent every single day, right? And so, how do we engage in our sex and our sexuality in a system that doesn't ask our consent? And and we have to tread lightly and tread carefully, right? And what is or is not permissible? What is or is not allowable? What is, or how do we or do we not act? I mean, our society is extremely repressed. Like, it's very strange to me, like, that we went through a sexual revolution with the free love movement that occurred throughout the 60s, and that has completely vanished. It's completely gone. The people who even participated in it are seem to believe that what we are seeing now, that the method that this society is choosing to explore its own sexuality, especially in the age of COVID, where everything has been digitized, right? That it's this classic, like, oh, kids these days sort of viewpoint, right? It is. It's this classic sort of kids these days sort of viewpoint, where we're not allowed to, where, oh, the youths, what they're doing is so degenerate. Like, no, dude, we are pursuing what naturally exists inside of us, and we are pursuing what God, the universe, has created inside of us. Like, when I was growing up, I was literally told that God would send me to hell for this, and the more you think about it, the stupider that sounds. Like, God put a button inside of me that makes me feel good when I press it, but if I press it, I go to hell. That makes God a psychopath. Like, period. And a being who has erected some kind of thing should not be listened to, right? It's just going to do what it wants anyway, right? So you might as well enjoy yourself, right? It's just going to do what it wants anyway. And so I take a look. Let me wrap this up by saying, like, I take a look at somebody like Belle Delphine, right? who I actually have a great deal of respect for, and I'm actually very curious to see what she continues to do as an artist, and because like anybody, you can see anybody have sex, right? Like there's millions and millions of people having sex. Like it's built into our DNA. It's genetic, and you can go on the internet and see it. It's right there. It's right there. It's a one Google search away. There are websites dedicated to it. Like it's an enormous phenomenon that we don't talk about as a culture. And if you do talk about it, it's like this kind of cheeky, like, ooh, pornography, right? Like I see all the time on the social media, people will just play the Pornhub theme, right? And it's like, ooh, ho. It's like, what are we, children? The answer, of course, is yes. The answer, of course, is yes. And someone like Belle Delphine, who is actually creating what I consider to be art, and I consider she has this one picture she released recently where she's posing with a shotgun, for God's sakes. Like that's very controversial and very brave and very scary. And because she is a sexual artist, because she is using her body sexually, it can, and while simultaneously posing with this shotgun, it connects a lot of uncomfortable, disparate things that make us all very, very odd and very comfortable. Also worth throwing into the conversation, I can literally watch a man get decapitated, right? Like a living person, I can watch him be decapitated. I can watch a video game where a man is split in half and has his organs removed, right? But if I see a woman with her nipples out, that's the worst thing in the world. We have a very inverted worldview. And it's completely the fault of capitalism. Because when you commodify sex in this way, you put people in positions they don't want to be in. And it also reminds the women in our world that, like, the sex that they have inside of them and the feeling that they have inside of them can be commodified, right? That's very scary. You talk about consent, right? Like the consent of one man towards one woman, right? Well, how about the consent of the agreement that you have in your society, right? That's very terrifying. And is something that I think needs to be confronted directly. And how do you confront it directly? You make videos like this and make yourself very vulnerable. All right, I think I feel like I'm hitting that point where I'm going to start going around in circles. Ah, man, if you've made it to this point, you got to subscribe, right? If you've made it to this point and you think, oh, hey, here's a guy who has some thoughts and some ideas, maybe he's a pervert, but oh well. Yeah, sorry I enjoy myself. Sorry me and millions of other people in the world enjoy themselves. Sorry. I know we're supposed to be reveling in our suffering. That's sort of the Petersonian, Ben Shabibo sort of hard right conservative mantra these days, that we're supposed to live in and enjoy our suffering. I don't. Right? I don't. I think suffering should be alleviated. I think we should find catharsis for our suffering. I think that the natural forces that exist inside of ourselves are larger flag points than these intellectual hacks, right? Or these like old men, even leftists I respect. They're just kind of old men who live on the left and don't really have a commentary on it. So here I am doing it, the Canadian Commie, and if you've made it to this point, please subscribe. Like, share, subscribe, all the stuff, hit the bells, hit the whistles, and final statement, man, like, you're doing great out there. You really are. You're making good decisions, you're following your heart, you're following that base chakra that exists right down in your core. You're following those things, I know you are, and you are right to do so. Those things are better flag points than the people who are trying to commodify you, right? And that's exactly what they are trying to do, right? These guys spend billions and billions of dollars to gaslight you, to funnel you down avenues so that they can turn you into a piece of property and commodify you. People like Doug Ford, people like Justin Trudeau, right? They want you to be a commodity. That is what they are arguing for. That is what they want to see happen. You're doing wonderfully. You're trying as hard as you can. You're beautiful. I love you. Good luck. We're going to need it.